You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
Hello and welcome back into the post All-Star second half of the season edition of My Wheelhouse. I'm your host Sheamus, joined again, per usual, Uncle Mike, Sloan. Welcome back, gentlemen. How are we doing?
Again. Doing great.
Awesome.
Really heading into the nice crunch time coming
Yep,
up.
yep. Hopefully the lulls that we're leading into All-Star break will soften out in the coming weeks, and we'll really get into some playoff competitiveness moving forward.
It's really the last
Or
third
some
of the
tanking,
season,
whichever
right?
way you want to go, either way.
Right, we're going to
Unofficially the second half.
There's not a lot of teams in contention when you look at it. And there's only a couple down the end. I mean, they could jockey for position a lot, but there's not too many teams.
I don't know. We may talk about that.
okay.
I see there might being able to be 9 or 10 teams that, if they try hard enough, could get the first pick. So we could see
The first pick. I'm talking about making playoffs.
Oh, well, if you look at that as well, there's
Not a lot.
there's 5 teams in either conference kind of fighting for 3 spots, if you consider.
Yeah,
like,
but they're just jockeying for. I mean,
Here-
in the East, it's just really Detroit and Miami. It's not much more than that.
I hear what you're saying.
Jockeying for position could be fun too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah,
think There's going to be
especially
a lot
when
of flip-flopping. A lot of
Yeah,
changes.
it's almost like do you want the Celtics to finish second and have to play Philadelphia in the first round?
They're not going to.
We never know. Before we get started, I'll take that.
All right.
Oh,
I
man.
kind of knew this was coming off.
10 to
I paid
7.
the price. I didn't do well in the All-Star game and all.
10
that.
to 7 to 4. I picked
10
Devin.
to 7 to 4.
I picked
man.
Devin
It's a little
Booker.
tighter than I want.
I picked
Devin
Devin
Booker
Booker.
was a very good pick.
I got him correct. I got Team
Was he
LeBron
knocking
correct.
down?
No one picked
I
Donovan
don't
Mitchell.
know how I didn't pick Donovan Mitchell. That's
You
been
like
my
were-
guy all year.
Well, okay. I'm
And
sorry.
then, but Larry Nance, I mean, he.
I didn't know.
was a
Overrated.
good- I picked
We'll
a
talk
good
about that.
runner
We'll talk
up.
about that. We can spin it.
You gave
Okay,
me
here we
no
go.
credit
Here we
on
go.
that pick.
No, you get no credit now.
You said that was a terrible pick.
Okay, second half of the season predictions.
okay.
I have a couple, and my first one is that the Cavs are going to be the first seed, number 1 seed. LeBron James is going to put
I
in
said
an
that
MVP.
last week.
So
You guys
they got-
made fun
they
of me.
got-
No, you said there's a possibility. I'm setting it in stone.
So they got 6 games.
gonna be the
to game. How
MVP.
many games
That's
in the
a
loss
stone
column?
for me, too.
MVP.
They got 6 games in the loss column to catch up on Toronto the last 20-something games.
Yep.
Toronto's got a lot of home games. They've done with their West Coast. They only got 1 trip. It's to Florida. I think that's it.
Yep.
They're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
They only played they played the Celtics twice at the end of the season, right at the end. I can't see Cleveland having enough time to gain those 6 games.
So they have the 22nd easiest schedule between now and the
Who
end
does?
of the Cavaliers.
Okay.
And they just look so jazzed. They look so
Yeah.
happy out there. They look so energized. I mean, it's a small sample size with this team, but I agree that if they're not first, maybe Toronto holds first and they end up second. But I think for sure,
yeah.
I think for sure that the Celtics are either third or fourth.
I don't know, but I think 4th is crazy. But I think that
Well,
those 3 teams are going to
because-
be very, very close by the end of the season.
The
I think
only reason I say maybe
there's going to be 2
And it
games
probably
removed.
doesn't really
76ers,
matter
right?
when you look at the matchups on the other end. That with the way teams are shaping up. I mean, you're going to have tough matchups in the first round, no matter where you finish.
I'll take. I mean, unless we get the Pacers, I'm not scared of the Pacers.
Maybe you'd rather finish third and play Milwaukee than
Could
second
be.
and play Philadelphia.
I don't want to play Milwaukee. I don't want to play. I don't want to
You're-
play
you're
a team.
Philadelphia,
I don't
then.
want to play a team where we don't have the best player in the series.
But I agree with you that if the Cavaliers get the first seed, LeBron will be the MVP.
Right.
But if the Rockets win the West, I think James Harden will hold on to the MVP because I think he's been the MVP.
Well, he's
all
the
along
MVP.
this
He's
season.
the MVP right now.
He
It ended
certainly
right now.
deserves it right now. But
I think that towards the end of the season, if we're beginning to see how it's going to shake out towards the bottom of the Western Conference picture, I think maybe Houston not necessarily take their foot off the gas, but maybe you could see them staggering resting games between Chris Paul and James Harden towards the end. And I see that Cleveland isn't necessarily going to be going full throttle the entire way, but I think that LeBron's new, even though it sounds funny to say, being showcased this much more because of the lack of other prominent players around him and because of that ability to be able to focus on his strengths and weaknesses and how he will be able to, turning over a new leaf of effort, he will be able to motivate them to a higher seed. I think he's
and
MVP.
they're going to lose
They'll
games,
hit a stretch.
you know, it's really there's not a big sample size yet for Cleveland. It looks great, and it's a train. But let's talk about Celtics a little bit. I think The interesting take that I heard was when the last game was being broadcast, and it was actually Kevin Mannix or Mike Mannix or whichever the father and son is, and Mike Gorman doing the game, the last game they did before the break, and Tommy's been sick or something. I'm a little worried about that.
We don't know any information. It
He
makes
had
me
the
sad.
flu. He came back quick from the flu, and now he's back up. But Gorman goes, well, I talked to Tommy this morning for a half an hour, and nobody hit it. And Tommy's take on the Celtics is, and he put it just this way, they've lost their fit. And I said, wow, boy, this guy, I just love his insight. And when you think about it, Kyrie goes out, and then Rozier comes in, that changes things. Now Kyrie comes back. Now Smart gets hurt. It affects Tice, it affects Morris, Monroe comes in, and their fit is different than it was before. And now they've got Stevens is going to take care of the fit with Monroe, the fit with Morris maybe starting, the fit with Rozier now going back to the bench and maybe not being the same. And also coming up is the fit to put Smart back into the whole thing. I think when that all settles out, and I think we've got time for that to settle out, that will fit back together, and that we will see the Celtics win 55 games, and that's as much as any of us thought they were going to win. I think they're a threat. I think they're a real threat. I'm with Sloan on Toronto as far as they've never done much in the playoffs, so I'm discounting them a little bit. The Celtics have got guys that have like Kyrie that can do the job in the point, and I'm not completely sold on Cleveland yet. I want to see how the Celtics match up with Cleveland. Now that they played them the first time, and I want to see how they match up with them the next time. And so only 23 games left to go.
Right, it's going to be exciting. I think that hopefully Smart is ready to go
Hopefully
right
he's ready to
now.
go.
He's ready to go right now, and hopefully
I
he can
hope
play
so.
first game available.
But that's an interesting thing, how to fit him back in.
They're not going to win 15 games out of 22, I'll tell you that much. They've got.
Why not? What do you mean? You don't think
they're
they go
gonna win
15 and
15 out
7?
of 22?
Why can't they go 15 and 7?
15 and 7?
They're tail spinning.
No way.
No way.
No way.
I'm not sold on that. I really think it's just a matter. I think Heinz.
And I think Philadelphia has a legitimate shot if Embiid plays the whole way through, or at least 90% of the way through. I think they have a shot to usurp them. Even in the top 4. I think they can take that 3rd seed.
They're not there yet. Maybe what are they 6 or 7 right now?
Yeah,
Philly has the easiest schedule.
Right.
I said
They do. They have a very easy
schedule going forward. They play the most sub 500 teams.
I think I could see them landing on the 4-5 type of spot. I don't know if they're going to vault up that high, but just another quick shade on Toronto. I know it's not a perfect sample, and it's not something that really means much, and we're going to talk about it more later, but when you look at how Lowry and DeRozan perform, act, and behave when surrounded by other alphas, and they are depended on to score in certain situations and be the alpha on the court and score against other alphas, they dwindle, and they aren't good. And they can't score, and they aren't dependable. And in the All-Star game, they looked laughable. And the effort was there because they always try.
DeMar DeRozan scored a bunch of points.
Yes, but how many open 3-pointers did he have, and how many of those did he make? How effective was Kyle Lowry in isolation basketball? When you get into the playoff environment, these two guys.
You're going to judge guys on their All-Star performance?
No, I'm saying this sample, in terms of how you can use it to judge a player's demeanor and their thought process and their self-comparison to other alphas in the league, which matters come the playoff when alpha matters most. The best player on the court matters most in the playoffs. These players have been proven to not live up to that expectation of being the alpha of their team, and I think that's a perfect representation of how they represent Toronto, and I don't trust the team at all because those two players are at the helm, and they're surrounded by a lot of young players that, although they have played well, they're young players. I really don't.
And they're going to depend on DeRozan and Lowry, and DeRozan and Lowry are not ready to take that mantle of being LeBron
They never
James.
will be. They never will be.
Okay.
I'm with you for the playoffs. They've never showed me anything in the playoffs, but we're talking about the second half of the season or the latter half of the season.
They'll be tough to beat at home.
Well, they're great at home. They're one of the 3 best home teams in the league.
And the Celtics are 21 and
playing
11, which is a
which
problem.
is weird because we only had 11 home losses. Or was it 11 home losses?
I think they're going to go 8-1 to
maybe it was
with
12.
that record. So it's like their home.
They
record
haven't
is not good.
out-rebounded. The Celtics haven't out-rebounded the Raptors in one game. this season. And the problem with the Celtics is I think they're 27-1 when they out-rebound their opponents.
Yeah.
And they cannot out-rebound the Raptors, whether they're in Boston or Toronto. And
We'll
that's
see.
a problem.
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see what it is.
You got any other small predictions? Who do you think's gonna? Do you think that award races may separate themselves? Maybe Oladipo tails down, and maybe a different player steps up for most
And
improved.
what award were you thinking about for Oladipo?
Most improved
Most
player.
improved player.
Most improved. I think it's probably
That's a lock.
I mean,
an
it is a
absolute
lock,
lock.
but
And
like.
Indiana's strong right now, so they're shaping up well.
But what if something happens? Maybe he misses a couple games, the injury or whatever it is. Maybe Miles Turner forms more into the player that we expected him to be, and maybe other players on the other side of the spectrum that we were looking at. I can't think of a single one off the top of my head that comes onto the scene, and maybe they rise up and
TJ McConnell could come onto the scene a little bit more.
TJ McConnell had a
McConnell's been
triple-double
great.
last week.
He's been great.
6 steals with it too.
Yeah, triple-double with 6
4
steals.
steals away from a quadruple-double. That'd
How
be
about that?
something.
can
I like
spin
TJ
it.
McConnell.
Donovan Mitchell, I think, has separated himself for the rookie of the year.
I realized
Such a star.
Such a star.
my end of my last episode, I think I said I'm wavering closer to picking Donovan Mitchell, and even though every single piece of evidence that I have since then is bolstering that idea, for some reason I've switched back. And I'm back on Simmons,
Yeah.
and he's the more complete player. He affects his. I understand that Mitchell is the leading scorer of a team that is amidst an 11-game win streak or whatever it may be, and he's propelling that team on one side of the ball, even though he does contribute defensively.
He's got that star power.
He does. He has star power and he has charisma. I mean, we saw him in the dunk contest, and we'll talk about that. But he isn't the player, and he doesn't have the contributions that Ben Simmons does. Ben Simmons is the statistical leader in every single category except for three-pointers and points in terms of rookies, and he's a close second behind Donovan Mitchell. You can see that his effect and control of a game is much more dynamic than Donovan Mitchell's, and his ability to assert himself in more than one way. I just like him. I like the way that he projects more moving forward, greater than Donovan Mitchell. I love Donovan Mitchell. He's a future All-Star in
I
this
think
league.
what's hurting Simmons is the metrics when Embiid is not on the floor.
Okay,
I
but-
think that's really hurting
But it's
even worse
but
than
why does that
Donovan
hurt
Mitchell.
him when you replace one of the top 10 players in this league with an Amir Johnson? That says more about the range of difference in ability between your starter and your replacement level player than your second best player who has to play with and bolster up and hold up that bench player that's
I think
coming
if
on
Donovan
there.
Mitchell played on the Sixers, they'd be the second best team
Yeah,
in the East.
I don't think we can play down either one of those guys.
No, they're both fantastic.
Great.
They're both
so to start
fantastic.
talking about one
I
not
agree,
being
I
that, they're both great.
No, I love
It's
both of them.
tremendous that they've surfaced in the league.
I agree. I love both of them. I just think I'm giving a little bit of
We've
an edge.
talked about how
Mitchell,
great
is he
Simmons is all
6'2",
year.
6'4",
He's like-
6'1"?
He's like 6'2"-ish. Wow. Right about 6'2".
It's going to be fun to watch.
Let's spin it. I'm picking Ben Simmons. Switching back. Maybe I'll switch more. Maybe we'll see. Maybe he has a
Stick with
lull.
Mitchell. Put it on the board.
All right, All-Star Saturday night. All right, good. We'll talk about this. So
The only entertaining day of the weekend.
I disagree. We started it off. They do like their press conferences, and I want to talk more about it later. But I listened to a lot of players. Everyone is not eligible, required to do a 30-minute interview with press. So the rising stars, each player that's in this. So I watched a full Jalen, Tatum. I watched a couple other ones, and there was some insight that I could take from that. But then they move forward, and you have the Saturday night, where it starts with the the skills challenge, which they've transitioned now to allowing it to be half bigs, half guards, and they do a bracket style, and they face off. Spencer Dinwiddie ended up winning.
Your boy.
Yeah, he's good. It's interesting because out of all the events, that one kind of means the least, and it's obvious that it means the least. And it's kind of like you go in and predicting who wins that. I didn't even ask us to predict it because it's kind of just a crapshoot and it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
you can't really take much
could be
from
big,
it.
it could
I mean,
be
Embiid literally didn't complete a pass in one of them.
And kept going.
So if you look at the rules say that you get 3 attempts and then you can move on. So it was just like weird. It was just like, I don't really know. Whatever. We don't need to talk anymore about that.
That's terrible.
Moving forward, the 3-point contest, besides maybe 3 rounds, was pretty poor. Paul George had one of the worst 3-point performances I've ever seen. He had 4 points leading up to the second to last rack.
I don't know why he and
he only
Lowry
had
do
8.
it. They're bad at that.
They are bad at that.
Why do they enjoy
They are bad at
participating
that.
in
It's
that? 'Cause it
interesting,
just
and
makes them
Lowry
look
always
bad.
does it. Lowry always does it.
Why
but-
does Carl Korver not go down there?
That's true.
He's friends with everybody down there.
But Klay Thompson had a fantastic performance responding to the record-setting performance by Devin Booker, although it wasn't enough. Klay had 25. Devin Booker had the record-setting 28, but needs to be taken with a grain of salt because now they're including the full rack of money balls. So instead of 30 overall points being the maximum amount of points, 32 is the maximum amount of points that you can get. So
Jeez,
percentage
asterisk for the history book.
Yeah,
That's
so
crazy.
but you do percentage-wise, and percentage of makes, it's still like a top 3 performance all time or something like that, next to like Larry Bird and
was
one other
pretty
person.
awesome.
It was phenomenal.
He saved the night.
He
for
made
that, at least.
exactly. He made that competition worthwhile, and it made it exciting. And he was electric, and he's a bona fide knockdown shooter. And I think he's probably. I mean, you compete next year, and I think he's a early favorite going into next year, because I wouldn't be surprised if Clay took a step back and didn't compete as well. Any comments on the 3-point before we get to the dunk? Obviously, the most important part.
Well, you were a spoiler alert for me because you didn't know I was doing something else other than basketball for a couple of days, and so you sent me who won. Way to go, Booker! So I was like, I knew that right away. And then you had Smith.
You're wearing the Suns. You're supporting Booker.
Well, yeah, the Sun is really
Sun, plural.
you know, and stuff like that. So I had every intention of watching these things. I had them all on tape, and when I came back on Sunday, but I just couldn't do it. And so I saw the highlights and stuff, and it was amazing what Booker did. And you know, I watched highlights. I actually ended up watching. On tape, I had the University of Rhode Island St. Bonaventure game, which was amazing, and it was like
that was fun.
I'd much rather watch that game than watch these All-Star festivities and stuff. There's a couple of things I took from the All-Star game, the All-Star festivities that I liked, you know, but I wouldn't say I paid a lot of attention to the details.
3-point contest takeaways.
I think that maybe the 3-point contest was better than last year, and maybe that's not saying much.
That's not saying much, but yeah, I agree. Based off that solely.
Once again, I mean, it's good
performance.
to see Devin Booker like really emerge for those of the national fans that don't really know him that well because they don't get to see him that much. Right. I mean, obviously we see him a whole bunch.
Was Bradley Beal
but he's the
shot
future.
real bad?
Bradley Beal was in it. He had one okay run, and then he had one really bad run.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I heard something about he was wearing a virtual reality mask and shooting earlier in the day, and he was stroking it, and it might have messed him up a little bit because he didn't look right when he was.
He said they went to commercial before he shot or something like that, and it threw him off.
That's
I like Bradley Beal because he was on with
factor.
the starters, and what a nice personality. Because I really liked him.
The commercialization of those Saturday night events is very interesting in terms of how they split it up. They do imagine you got two minutes of action where it's just 60 seconds, and then they run to commercial between it, and it's really funky to have a shooter and try to stay in your flow of your shot, and you're having that big of a break. It's unusual. It's unusual.
He was really out of sync.
All right, moving to the highlight of the Saturday night is the dunk contest. Overall, I would give it like a B-, a C+.
But the good dunks were worth it.
The good dunks were good.
I feel like every year the slam dunk contest is good, but not great.
Right.
I mean, we're never going to say that it was awful.
Right.
But it's really just like, oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So Donovan Mitchell came home with the trophy, deservedly so. All of his dunks were solid. I would say that his best dunk was probably the one where he wore the Dr. Duncanstein or whatever it was, the Everson, Griffith or whatever his name is, number 35 from the Jazz.
Okay.
Dunk pass, where he had the alley-oop off the side of the backboard, and they dunked over 3 people, which was very silly because he could have just had Kevin Hart, his sister.
Stand up.
They could have stand up because he cleared them. I don't know if you watched this highlight of this dunk. He had them bend over.
Yeah,
he cleared them with ease, and it was so silly because if they stood up, it would have been a little bit more
Dunk
impressive.
over a trio of
that's
people
key. It was
5
power.
feet under.
Didn't he also do the one off the second backboard?
Yeah, that was
I liked that
That's
one.
a difficult pass. That was a difficult
Well,
pass.
yeah,
That's
I
hard.
really liked that one.
Right, that was another solid dunk. A solid dunk. for him.
Innovative.
Yeah, good angle shot. I mean, I think it's a little early for your first dunk to be whipping out the prop.
Right.
But
Well, I mean,
That's what his first dunk was, the one off the backboard?
it was the
that was
first
his
dunk.
first
It
That
was
was
the
a
first
nice
dunk.
dunk.
I liked. I mean, he had a 360 between the legs, so that was
That was
pretty awesome.
Donovan Mitchell. No, that was
Well,
Dennis
well,
Smith.
Oh, that was Dennis Smith. Yeah.
And it was awesome. That was really
so
good. So I just saw the highlights.
I think that
saw
was the
some
best
good
dunk of the whole night.
But if they didn't have, I love slow motion on these things because that's where you really see what these guys just did. When it happens fast action, I mean, they have to do it fast because they can't just suspend in air. But that dunk by Nance was pretty cool.
Throwing it off the
Come
backboard
on,
twice.
try doing that. Try have someone else
Dude,
try
I
that.
can't dunk. What are you talking about?
Passing it off the backboard,
Mike.
catching it again, and passing it a second
I
time
agree
off the
with you, Mike.
backboard.
I can do that on an 8-foot hoop. So
A
there's
second time off the backboard
Yes,
like
yes,
that?
okay.
We'll see
When
this.
I saw that in
The-
slow motion,
the
I said that was pretty
the reason
impressive.
that dunk is supremely lame is because
No,
that dunk.
you can't call it
Okay.
lame.
Okay, ready?
Not
Ready?
just
So
lame,
wrong.
supremely
Okay, ready?
lame.
Ready? This dunk contest.
I'm ready for this terrible take.
This
yeah.
dunk contest had several dunks that were renditions of prior dunk contest dunks.
I never saw anybody do that before.
Okay, then you haven't watched enough dunk contests. So
The double off the backboard has been done before?
yes. So Donovan Mitchell's final dunk that won it with a 360 windmill. It was a good dunk, a tribute to Vince Carter. Overall, I think tribute dunks should be gotten rid of because if you can't do the tribute dunk better than the tribute dunker,
none of them did.
None of them can do, and you can't do the 360 windmill better than Vince Carter. That's never mind dunk contest dunk. The 360 windmill from Vince Carter in 2000 is literally one of the best dunks ever.
Larry Nance didn't do it half as good as his dad.
Didn't do it half exactly. There was several dunks, and if you can only do a dunk to 80% of what its former thing is not worth it.
Who has done the aforementioned double toss off the
Are you going to
backboard?
get to why this was ridiculously lame? I want to hear.
I'm linking them all together. There were several dunks that were renditions of
And Nance's was a rendition?
So, Dwight Howard in the 2008 dunk contest, his first dunk contest, he had a dunk where he ran from outside the three-point line. He threw it in the air, jump shot in the air, bounced off the ground. He's in the air, perpendicular to the backboard, slaps it with his left hand off the backboard with one hand, is way higher than Nance was, isn't even close. Palms it with his right hand off the catch, dunk.
Okay.
In the air. It's not even close.
But that wasn't a double off the backboard, though.
Yes, it was. He was in the air. In the air, the ball bounces off the ground while
weird.
the ball's in the air, slaps it off the backboard, catches the ball, dunks it. People have talked about it.
That still only sounds like one time off the backboard when you describe it.
You need to watch it. Oh, say Larry Nance.
Okay, I'll
Larry
watch
Nance
it.
threw it off the backboard to himself, correct?
Yeah, right.
Alley-oop off the backboard.
Catches it, throws it off the backboard again,
and dunks it. Does it this, and this. Dwight Howard shot it. Okay, so the first alley-oop. The first alley-oop is off the ground, not off the backboard.
Okay.
There's a difference.
That's easy because you haven't
Okay,
jumped
so
yet.
the impressive
You're
part.
not a
the
double
impressive
off the
part-
backboard.
So the no, it's the what? So the impressive
He's not
part.
in the air when he throws the first alley-oop. I don't understand how that's. I don't know.
What are you talking about? Who's not in the air?
I'll watch that one.
Nance wasn't
he
in the air.
throws it- no.
Nance
I mean,
didn't
it's no
throw two alley-oops in the air. He threw one pass
That
on the
one
ground,
dunk to
just
me
like
was
Dwight
impressive.
Howard threw one pass on the ground. Except it's not even
All
close.
right,
It's literally
I
not
guess
even
I'll
close.
give that.
Like
Okay.
Dwight Howard, in contrast,
I'll
it's
give
like
you
a
that.
50 to like
Dwight
a
Howard
27.
dunks better
Like,
than
it's
Nance,
not even
but
close.
this particular dunk was unique.
It wasn't unique because it wasn't
Who's
impressive.
done it before? I've never seen anybody
Howard.
throw it off the backboard, catch it, throw it off the backboard again, and dunk it. And I never saw anybody do that before.
I think you're the only NBA analyst in the nation that's calling that dunk ridiculously lame.
It was lame. It was a lame dunk.
Okay.
It was,
I
there was,
haven't heard
there was
anybody
no,
else
there was
on
no
They're losing
flare.
credibility
There
on
was,
this
there
one,
was
Shaq.
no flare. The
There's
arena
no
was
flare.
the arena was
You gotta see it.
flat.
You
They had
gotta
to
see
watch
it
the
in slow,
replay 3 times.
until you
They're
see it in
even
slow
understand what
motion.
happened.
Once you see it in slow motion,
Okay,
it's impressive.
so I knew exactly the first time that I watched the
didn't
Dwight
catch
Howard
it.
dunk, I jumped out of my seat because that dunk was remarkable. This dunk fizzled. This was not a big dunk.
until you see it in slow motion.
I watched the dunk like 37 times. I know it wasn't that great.
All
And
right.
then,
But you also were down on Nance before this thing even started. As
yes,
just being
because he's
Right.
an in-game dunker. He's a Statue of Liberty dunker.
Okay.
So the biggest
And
part. Okay.
I'll take all of that.
So the biggest part about being
I'm
successful,
not going lame on this dunk.
about being successful in a dunk contest, is tailoring your dunks to your strengths. So you see, Donovan Mitchell did a very good job with 3 of his dunks, tailoring it to leaping ability, to flailing in the air, and to power on contact of the rim. He did a great job. The 360 windmill came short, but that was more so because he was trying to copy a Vince Carter dunk. You watched Nance. And his one dunk that was perfect for that, even though I don't think it was that great of a dunk, was the windmill where he jumped from out of bounds. It wasn't that impressive.
From under the backboard.
Right, it
and
wasn't
came
that
back.
impressive, but because of his extension,
It was Vince Carter-like.
because of his extension and because of the power, that was the type of dunk, if you're Nance, you need to be competing with. If I was Nance, I would have brought up like 7 people and just dunked over them. And you need to emphasize the fact that you're long. You need to emphasize the fact that you have power. I wasn't impressed by this little dainty off the backboard pass.
I think he did a lot better than you're giving him credit
So
for.
the best dunk in the competition is Dennis
Smith.
Smith's in between the legs,
Yeah, that was the
reverse
best.
off the left hand, and it's not
was the
even
best.
close. That's a top 5.
Mitchell's
top-
were close.
No, it's not even close. The
They're close.
maybe a top 10 dunk contest dunk all time. For that
was an amazing
The
dunk.
degree of difficulty, there's maybe one other player in the league that can do that.
I
maybe.
think if he had gotten his dunk right after that, then he would have advanced to the finals.
So the thing is, that dunk, there's another
a great
example
dunk.
of a repeat rendition. His first dunk, which is actually funny because there's a Dennis Smith interview before he played his first game, and where he was talking and they were asking him about other players in the league, and he started talking about Aaron Gordon and how Aaron Gordon stole his dunks. And he was just saying, like, I'm a better dunker than Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon stole my dunks. And that dunk, this dunk, that one, where he does that.
Yeah.
So that was a rendition.
That's a legendary one.
A rendition of Aaron Gordon's dunk from last year, but Aaron Gordon did it better. Don't do a dunk that's
Yep.
copying someone else's if you can only do it to 85% of the degree. But
many-
regardless, he only got a
But
38
they're
for that. That was
trying to do the Michael Jordan from the foul line. That's always going to be but at least Levine put it between his legs. You're right.
right. So the thing is, exactly.
Yeah, he
If-
got-
put
he
your
got
own spin on
robbed.
it. Put your
He
own
got
spin
robbed on that
He
score.
should have been in the finals. I hear that he
DJ
had-
Khaled. What does
Exactly.
he know about
Exactly.
basketball?
Okay,
You
that's
got Dr.
big
J up
problem,
there,
big
and then
problem.
you have DJ Khaled.
Lisa Leslie,
There was
reputable
no
judge.
consistency. Yeah, Lisa Leslie knows what
Okay,
she's doing.
there's 3
Hey,
celebrity
it's
judges.
All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, so I
know.
like that in some degree, but every
and
single
I'm
other
sick
year
of
they
Kevin
have-
Hart. I don't like Kevin Hart anymore.
No, I still like him. I don't really care.
You know what I liked?
Tell me.
The warm-ups. They were awesome. I love those black things. They were great. Where they were cropped around the
I like those.
about halfway down the knee, and
Fashionable.
then with the socks on. I want warm-ups like that. I thought they were great. And I liked the introductions. I didn't like all the other stuff the stuff that went on. And that's all. I watched that, and then I watched the beginning of the game.
Well, we can talk about that.
And the beginning.
What do you think about Fergie?
Oh my God.
Uh,
You know, it's a pretty bad
I
sign
didn't
when
think I-
everybody in the nation
I
is
didn't
talking
never
about the
ever think-
national anthem and how bad it was instead of talking about the All-Star
I just
game.
didn't think anybody ever would have the approach to the national anthem to try to make it sensual. You
Yeah.
know, it's just like, come on. You
Oh,
know,
she's trying to make it
a
sensual.
When she,
sensual national
no,
anthem.
when she got to the crescendo, I
Make
thought
it-
she was going to
make it
start touching
bluesy.
herself.
Bluesy would be
She's weird.
okay.
She's weird. She's definitely weird.
almost-
She's definitely weird.
It was out of
Marvin
control.
Gaye,
Don't,
yes.
don't sexualize the national
Back-
anthem.
There was
Just
nothing
sing it
wrong
the
with
way you're
her
supposed to.
pitch or her tone. That was all good. You
Nah,
know,
I
When
did-
she
I don't
said, say, or the last line, oh, I thought somebody had stuffed
she
in her
was on-
foot.
she had the right note
I
on
thought
that.
maybe she got
She had the
stung
right
by
note.
a bee or something.
Yeah, it was pretty
It
bad.
sounded bad.
Just some final
She
thoughts.
thought
on
she was good too.
Well, good for
Yeah,
her.
okay, so did
Let me
Roseanne.
froze it. No, she didn't.
Roseanne knew she was bad. Some final thoughts on Saturday. I do think it was pretty interesting. After the dunk contest, Dennis Smith said he had some showstoppers, so I think he'll be back. A video was released of a Victor Oladipo dunk that he didn't get to do. Quickly on Victor Oladipo, his dunk where he got the Black Panther mask from Chadwick Boseman, who's Black Panther and Black Panther. The first attempt where he cocked it back and then he brought it real low into a windmill would have been a very impressive dunk. And one of my pet peeves in terms of the dunk contest is when a dunker comes out, tries a dunk, misses it, and it looks like it has potential to be a phenomenal dunk, and then comes in and changes it and does a
Switches
less.
it, yeah.
So he did this, but then the second time he just did like that, and it was just kind of it didn't live up to the last miss that he had.
Yeah,
so it
but
wasn't,
Might have
the
got-
worst thing in those things if you
Might have
if you
gotten
miss a couple
scared.
times.
if you missed a couple times.
You miss a couple times, it's just like
I think
come
that
on.
was the
it doesn't
worry.
count no more. you
Anyway,
feel what I'm saying.
Oladipo released a video of a dunk that he would have done in the finals, and this dunk, it's either this dunk or the Dennis Smith dunk that is the best dunk in the competition. That would have been the best dunk in the competition, and it's another rendition of your Larry Nance dunk that you like and my Dwight Howard dunk that I like, except it would be the best of the three.
Okay, I'll
What he
check
does
that
is he runs in from the right block, jumps off 2 feet, spins counterclockwise, is palming the ball with his left hand while in a 360 in the air, throws the ball off the backboard to himself, catches it with his right hand, dunk, finish the 360.
Now, why is that resemble somebody that goes up and throws it off the backboard twice?
He didn't throw it off the backboard twice. He threw out
He
alley-oop.
threw it off the backboard, caught and threw it off the backboard again.
threw
That's
it-
twice. Two
he-
times
he
it went off the
threw it-
backboard. Go off the backboard 2 times.
Yes.
He threw an alley-oop.
You're going to say
into
that
a
did
pass.
not go off
It's
the
not like
backboard
we're
2
going to
times?
convince Shay that that was a good dunk.
It wasn't a good dunk. He threw an
But you just-
alley-oop is different. The
Tough to budge.
impressive part of the dunk is
Okay, all right.
throwing it off the
I
backboard
don't
when
have to
you're
keep
in
saying
the
it,
air.
but I just don't think you just described somebody that went off the backboard twice. I mean,
It's
as
that's
good
not
as
the
that was, I'll
impressive part.
take it.
The
Did
impressive
Oladipo's
part-
look like one he could repeat? Or was
it looked very difficult.
Very
it looked very hard.
difficult.
The level of difficulty, very, very hard.
When Shay doesn't like something, he doesn't
Well,
like
it's
something.
just like the difficult and impressive part of the dunk is the pass in the air, correct? How he gets to that pass, I don't care. That's the part
Or
of the dunk
doing
that matters.
something unique.
The alley.
I think you went into it hating Larry Nance.
I don't hear Larry Nance. I
just
think Larry
like
Nance
Marcus Morris.
Larry Nance is one of the better dunkers in the league. He's a
I picked
phenomenal
Larry
dunker.
Nance last week and you said, that's a terrible pick.
It is a terrible pick. He's the
That's
worst
right,
dunker in
you
the
did say
competition. He was the worst dunker in the competition.
He was.
He definitely was.
All right, so Mark Cuban, the
jeez.
Mavs are in a lot of trouble right now.
Oh.
All right, so there's several things. Some
Especially in
things,
this day and
Some
age.
things I really don't care about. There's domestic abuse or some type of situation going on with a Mavs beat writer, and that's a problem. But I don't really want to talk about that. But more interestingly, Mark Cuban was recently on a podcast with Dr. J, Julius Erving, in which he started to discuss tanking. He got a $600,000 fine by the league. We recently saw Magic, what was it?
Such an idiot.
Magic got fined 50 grand
Was that
just
all
for
it?
tampering,
Yeah.
for talking about tampering, and he was talking about tanking and how it's obvious that his team is going to tank. That's the best way to do it. He violated that rule last year and got fined last year. I don't know why he continues to.
This is why the
slip up.
commissioner
But
changed
it's so weird. He's smart. What is he doing? Like
I don't know.
Well,
He's
he at
crazy.
least
He's
owes
smart but
us-
crazy.
He at least owes us telling us how they're going to tank. I want to hear it. I want to hear how you're going to
transparent.
tank.
He's
Are you
transparent.
going to say they're actually not going to try? Is that what you're going to say?
No.
Are we going to put guys on the bench?
play young guys, sit
Play
veterans.
young guys. Well, that can be not tanking too. Playing young guys can be not. Look what the Knicks are going to do. I mean, Jared Jack's not going to play much the rest of the year because they're
certainly
going to
hope
play the
not.
young guys. But that's not tanking.
What a disservice to the fans. It's like the movie Major League. Like,
Wow, crazy comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how they play.
how
I
can
don't
you
think,
say that? Like, and especially when the league is trying to actively they change the lottery, the drafts odds and stuff, so that they don't help
that's
people who tank.
Right,
or
that's
help
where I
teams who
wanted
tank.
to lead this discussion because it's going to be crazy. This is going to be some of the most blatant and obvious tanking we've ever seen in the league because the lottery is changing. Next year, your chances of having this high pick
Right.
that isn't going to be as reputable and of a likely of a hit as this year with the top 6 and 7 picks that we have available this season, it's going to be crazy. I think that the
I don't
Knicks,
agree with
Mavericks,
that, Shay,
Suns, Kings, Hornets. There's
So-
legitimately maybe 10 teams
that are looking
you
to
can
back-
see. Bulls. The Bulls have already claimed that they're sitting Robin Lopez, sitting Justin Holiday, and starting David Nwamba,
So what are
and
these
starting
teams?
Cristiano
Shay, what are they
Felicio.
looking for? Are they looking for the number 1 pick? Are they looking for?
They want the number 1
But I
pick.
don't get that because it doesn't matter when you get the number 1 pick. There's 5 guys, and if Porter comes back and plays, there's
You want-
6 guys.
But do you not want to be able to choose which one you get?
I guess.
What do you mean you guess?
Yeah,
you
but
want to be saying, hey, you get this guy, or it's like you can have
Oh, so
one
I'll
of
take
these 5
I'll take
players.
Martell Fultz.
Fultz. Yeah, I would have
You know,
chosen Fultz
you know,
too.
you
That's
know.
a weird situation that you can't compare.
It is a little bit, but it's still a hard and unpredictable. And
There's
it's
been a
like,
lot of bad number 1 picks.
You
the past
won't
5
go
years.
wrong with any one of those 6.
Right, but
Maybe
the
not the
point
past
is there's
5.
10
So
teams.
why would you tank if you're going to get one?
Because there's 10 teams vying for these 6 players. There's at least
You
10.
think they know which one they pick?
No, they maybe number 1. Even right now, it's a back and forth race between Doncic and Ayton for who's considered the number 1 overall pick.
Well, unless Bagley's knee is hurt, so I think he's right up there too.
Right, exactly. There's several players. So the Suns are going to come down the stretch, and they're going to lose some awful games, and they're going to try to get there. All of these teams, the Mavericks, Cuban blatantly admitting that, yes, the best strategy is to be on the bottom of the standings so that you can be more likely to land
Well, they're
one
not
of these
gonna have any
potentially
trouble doing
franchise-altering players. Exactly. If you look
I
at
mean, Dallas is down there anyways. I don't know why you even have to talk. They're going to get one of the. They're going to get one of the 5 picks.
That's why I'm more nervous, and at the same time kind of happy because teams like the Nets are probably going to rise out of that, and the teams like the Lakers are unfortunately going to rise out of that, and we're probably going to be having to force to convey.
Well, if
with a
anybody
Kings
wants
pick
to
next year, which
tank,
is
it would
okay.
be Magic. You would think.
But they can't. They don't have their pick, so they're
Right.
They're not going to tank. They're going to try to win as many games as possible. So
Yeah,
it's,
Celtics definitely aren't getting the league.
we're not going to get the pick because of how.
Well, that would
just
serve
vast
Cuban
this
right if
morass
the
is.
Lakers finished with the 9th and the ping pong balls come out and the Celtics get it anyways.
That could happen. That's happened before.
What, what does 600,000 really matter to Mark Cuban?
Oh, it doesn't.
Well, I don't know. I think at some point you got to say 50,000. You might. But when you get
Back-to-back
to
years.
600 is pretty impressive. That's a lot of money.
I'll take that fine money, Mark.
I mean, knock him down in the draft. Maybe that'll keep him from saying stupid
know
stuff
about
like
that. I
that.
don't know
But
about
that's
that wouldn't go over very
slippery
well.
slope.
Yeah.
Bring
They're
something to
they're
the
having
table.
trouble too with Sam Hinkie too. What he had? What did he have? 2 domestic issues or something?
Hinky?
Well, in Cuba, in Dallas.
Yeah, and he was saying that they wrote something in his contract about if he had issues again, he would have to go to counseling. Like,
It wasn't Hinky.
No,
It was a staff writer. Sam Hinkie is the former GM that did the process.
Oh, okay.
It was it was a writer that in his contract he couldn't be in a room alone with a woman.
with
which
the,
is
that's unbelievable.
preposterous that even it was hired with that clause.
No, what I
That
read
is a
about
tough
him.
issue to talk about.
Yeah, it's stupid. But
Let's get away from Cuban.
yeah, we'll talk about Adam Silver's speech before the All-Star game. He does it every year. Usually talks about new ideas, what the biggest topics around the league are. This year's focus was him accepting that moving forward, he will need to consider potentially the seedless and conference-less playoff picture, and then he spoke a little bit on how one and done needs to be eventually eradicated.
10 out of the 28 All-Stars, including the guys who were injured, were one and done, so out of high school.
Yep, I believe that. Not out of high school.
Well, LeBron was out of high school.
Right.
So he got included in the 10.
I think the more interesting conversation is the playoffs. We have plenty of time to talk about fixing one and done. I think that's a little bit further down the road, but it's interesting because all of these things are intertwined. With the playoffs, he was discussing, and the most popular idea is it would still be 8 teams from either conference, kind of similar to how they changed the All-Star game. It would still be 8 teams from either conference. It would just be seeded 1 to 16 instead. Worst record goes against best record, and it would probably be spread out over a longer period of time due to new travel requirements and stuff like that. And I think that this
How will they seed the teams?
record.
But they don't play a balanced schedule. The Celtics play Golden State twice. Those teams out there play Golden State how many times? That's not balanced.
So what?
Well, when you're
play-
going to be
you-
ranking the
he's saying you
teams
play the
by
teams in your
record,
conference
if you had to play
more.
Golden State 8 times and somebody else only had to play them twice, your record might not be as good, but you might be just as good a team.
It could be. I think that's something maybe they'll look into in the future. I think it's interesting to think about where this
It's
potential
interesting.
step forward could lead afterwards. Because I don't think the 1 to 16 is what's interesting. I think Bill Simmons has talked about this, doing like a play-in tournament for the bottom 2 seeds. Or Daryl Morey has talked
Like
about
the MLB does that
right.
for wild
Daryl
card.
Morey talks about how the
And what
top
are they
8 seeds get to choose their first round opponent.
And why do they need to change it? To make it more interesting and be more inclusive for other
right,
teams?
yeah, well, I mean,
why?
perennially, do you not hear the discussion? Oh my God, the West
West is better
is the
than the
A
East.
team, the East is the D League.
Well,
and
do
if
you
it wasn't for
do you
LeBron
really
James,
feel that way this year?
I feel that way every year to a degree. I think that it's competitive-wise on the top and the bottom, you can compare in apples and oranges, but
I don't think-
overall, there's more stars, there's more All-Stars in the West. But I
don't think it would be.
More wins.
I don't think it would be better if you had the 8 seed in the East playing against the Warriors in round 1 of the playoffs. I think that would be unwatchable television.
What, the 8th team in the East playing?
Well,
it was
wait,
Philadelphia.
If we went with this format,
Isn't the 1 versus 8 unwatchable anyway? Isn't Memphis versus Golden State unwatchable anyway?
Philadelphia's in 7th.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You're dealing
Denver
with
is not a
different
bad
teams.
team.
So I personally like what Maury talked about, being able to select your opponent. I think that's an interesting thing to be able to
Select your
choose.
opponent.
Yeah, so 1 through 8,
weird.
you get to draft what what team from 9 to 16.
Let's
you
not
wanna
mess
play.
with it too much, you know?
Yeah, LeBron thinks that. LeBron doesn't think that you should change anything. But it's interesting because he could be a catalyst for this change to be escalated and be changed upon more quickly if he goes to the West. If LeBron James goes to the West, they might need to do something to change it, because then the best star in the East is going to be Joel Embiid and Kyrie Irving. And although those players are reputable stars in the league, if 11 of the top 15 players are in the West, you're going to need to be able to change that balance somehow.
I like at the end it being the East versus the West, because I don't want to see Houston and Golden State in
See,
the
no
finals.
one
They
agrees
played
with
each
you.
other too many times.
No one agrees with you, though. Everyone wants to see that. I'm not saying I personally do.
I'd rather
but
see
the comment.
I'd rather see
Okay, but is Houston not the second best team in the league?
But I don't mind them getting to the semifinals and having to play that out and having it be Cleveland and Boston.
but that
on the other
happened
side.
many, many years.
I just think
there were
the
the
East
2
and
best
West is
teams.
an
in
identity
one
there in
conference.
East and
agree.
West.
But that's where the argument is being arose, because
Remember the
I know.
Orlando Magic versus
That'll
the
run a
Bulls?
cycle.
That was probably a
no,
better,
that's a good example.
better
That's a
finals
that's
than
a perfect example. But even then, I mean, who is the 1 seed? Seattle? Are the Jazz, are those teams stronger? You know what I mean? Those
Well, I
teams
think
now.
it was the Rockets, right? Or no? it wasn't.
Exactly. Those 3 teams, in comparison, if you flip the switch, are those 3 teams more dominant in comparison than the Celtics, the Cavs, and the Raptors? Probably. You know?
I just don't understand.
it's interesting-
The,
it's
the
interesting
inherent
to
benefit
discuss.
of changing it that
Yeah.
much.
I think
Seems-
that the fact that change might be the most interesting part about it, in trying to evolve your league and try new things,
Yes,
and trying to
I agree
develop
with
to
that.
see what works and what doesn't work. Maybe you try it 1 year and maybe there's a lot of backlash and you can go back to the old way. That's fine. I think it's interesting discussion how it could affect the record books, how it could affect a team like Golden. Maybe it makes Golden State's road easier. Maybe they win more simply, and maybe they're saying, well, this is lame. We're helping the best team, not supporting a league more balance of parity from top to bottom. It's interesting discussion. Adam Silver didn't say it's going to happen. He just said it's becoming unavoidable to be able to entertain the discussions about these changes. So
I hope
He's
a
a
team just
master at massaging both sides of the issue.
Yes.
He's awesome with that. And,
he must have studied rhetoric in
so
college.
he's always going to give some lip service to. Boy.
you want to talk?
I-
yeah, let's talk about the All-Star game. All right, so.
Well, I think one thing to be said right away is that what you just said about making changes and having and seeing how things shake out.
Yeah,
I would say that this change shook out very well.
Right.
I loved how the teams played against each other, and there was a level of competitiveness, a level of defense. One thing I heard them mention that they found very competitive was teammates going against each other.
Yes. Yes.
I didn't really think of that before, but to have a teammate on one squad and on the other, those two guys going at each other was very competitive.
It almost seemed a little contrived. Like LeBron was like, "Come on, let's D up, let's win this." I almost thought it was like he was like putting on a show. Like they asked him,
Yeah.
do a little acting here, like make people feel like you really want this.
But they-
I hate that.
Contested shots.
I hate that. He wanted that. He wanted to win that game.
I don't know.
So I think that the format changes and the new draft and all this with the new jerseys and the new sponsorship and having more acclaim to your team, they helped. But the underlying factor is the reason that this All-Star game was good and the past two specifically were horrid is because of effort. And
Right.
because of effort from the top and how that motivates the remaining players. Effort in terms of LeBron James, in terms of Giannis, in terms of Embiid, and in terms of Karl Towns. I think those are the four main players that were trying. LeBron can try his hardest, and an entire team is going to try because LeBron's trying.
LeBron still looked awesome.
And in
He's
terms
still
of
entertaining to
in terms
watch,
of
but-
Team Steph, it was those three guys, those three unicorns of Embiid, Giannis, and Karl Towns that I saw their effort on both ends, their determination and competitiveness. I saw that lift the spirits and the competitive nature of those around them. We still had some people, Steph and Harden, who kind of
Watching people.
Yes, it was more so of the entertainment game of old for them, and that's fine because you're going to have those. But the rising competitiveness and drive of these young players, and by the number one player in the league in LeBron, that's what made this game great.
I
And that
wish it was
effect on the
more
whole
contagious.
player-
What would have
I agree-
happened
I
last year with
totally
those
agree with
players?
you.
You still probably would have had the game played just as ugly as it did.
So last year was just a buildup of all these games over
Right.
and over being we need to score as many points as possible, we need to make an offensive show, it needs to be highlight driven, and we can play
Take it out of
defense for the
hand.
last 2 minutes, but
Kinda
you
like
risk-
the Rising
you-
Stars challenge
Yes, but you
was.
risk, perfect example and perfect comparison is you risk the chance playing with that fire for 46 minutes with not having a game to make competitive in the last 2 minutes. All-Star games of old,
Good point.
you remember them being okay if they're highlight driven in the beginning, if they're laissez-faire, if they're laid back, but they're enjoyable because of good shooting,
Yeah.
good dribbling,
Well, I think-
and then they end with a 2-minute stretch of competitive basketball that ends in a close game. What we had coming up to this year was a string of games that was a perennially blowouts, and it was just a joke and a laughter, and that, in addition to the effort that was displayed this weekend, the backlash that came after last season and how much discussion we had about how do we fix the All-Star game format. There needs to be a
To
change.
me, it's still
And
not
invest-
fixed.
It's not. No, it's not perfectly
But
fixed.
it's okay.
not perfect.
3 points shy of 300 total points scored.
Yeah, but,
And-
Yeah, but 140, 144,
No, I think there were 50
146.
points under the over
80.
the 80
At
points under the
one
over
point,
under.
Steph Curry's
80
team-
points under.
No.
There were 50 points
I
under
thought
the
you
over
were
under.
saying. I thought you were saying in comparison to the previous
No,
year.
no, but they were 50
Total
points
points. They
under
scored
the over
81 less points.
At one
than
point,
last year.
Steph Curry's team was up by 14, and LeBron's team came back within a minute and a half or 2 minutes.
Yeah,
or
but that
something.
happens in
It's
regular basketball games.
Yeah.
That happens in regular basketball games.
And if Steph Curry really wants to win, how does he dribble himself into a corner?
That was
Get doubled?
but that was fantastic defense. Well, imagine being
Well,
trapped
doesn't
by
even get a
LeBron
shot
James.
off?
No,
Doesn't
he
even get a
cannot.
pass?
How do you get a shot off when against a double team of LeBron James
do
and
you
Kevin
dribble
Durant?
into the
That
corner
might be
when
the
you-
most imposing double team you could conjure.
You
in
have
the
two
league.
6'8" guys on you or taller, and you just dribble into the corner? It made no sense.
He wanted the shot. It was
guy with the second
was some
best handles in the league.
There was some interesting elements. I thought it was laughable that Damian Lillard wasn't in the game. He was the best perimeter scorer for Team Steph, and it was very obvious. They had DeRozan in the game, down 3, which was laughable. But I think that was more so playing into the fans voted for this. We need to make sure that the fans are appeased. So I wasn't really sure what D'Antoni was doing there, not having his best players on the floor in the last moment. But
I got sick and tired of DeMar DeRozan getting wide open like penetration and just dunks left and right.
Well, I mean, that was part of it.
nuts.
I mean, the first quarter was looking like it wasn't necessarily the All-Star game of old where there's no defense, because there was defense. It was just sloppy because there was turnovers.
I fell asleep during the game.
was turnovers.
I woke up for the end, which was
Well, you could
at
see
least a
right
little bit
from the
more
beginning
exciting,
that they were going
I didn't
to
think it was
give
that
more
good.
attention than before.
Right.
But I was thinking before this happened and during this, after last year and everything, I went back to some of the old All-Star games and read stuff up on, because my tainted look at the past, you're always going to think of the history different than what it was. You think, man, those games, when Chamberlain and Russell played, when Bird and Magic played, they were just competitive, and they went at. That's not true. They played a showtime, and it was the fourth quarter that they dug in, and they played pedal to the metal in the fourth quarter to go for it. But it was a show. It always has been, always will be.
I think it's less of a show now. I think that this generation has just as much talent as previous generations' All-Star games, but I think they're just less showy, I guess.
Well, one of the things that I would
they're less fun
that
just to
strikes
watch.
me that I'm just some things I'm just sick of seeing, and one is that off the backboard dunk. I am sick of that. I mean,
Pass to a teammate?
Oh my God, forget it. I don't want to see that no more. It creates so many so many situations that they're just not playing the game anymore, and they're throwing it off the backboard, hoping for the. I don't like that. That bothers me.
That's funny because your
especially
favorite
when the
dunk in the dunk
defense is
contest was
watching.
the throw off.
Well, the dunk contest is a little different than game time.
I thought
your say?
I thought overall it was a great game, and I think it's interesting. Like you
Great
say,
game?
Yes, it was. In terms of if you're judging an All-Star game, that game had everything that you wanted. In terms of if you take aside the
Just not convinced that
I hope
there's-
I can get the warm-ups. I mean, I'm going to
you can NBA.com.
They're nice. NBA.com, you can get those warm-ups.
Yeah, for
those
sure.
are really cool.
If
I don't know
I
whether
just
it look good on
want
me
a
with
tip
the
to
high
final
side.
buzzer competitive game, and I
Yeah, but
didn't
that's
get
not what
that.
you're going to get. If you take out the first 5 minutes of the first quarter where there was sloppy play, that was one of the best All-Star games in terms of competitiveness from beginning to end that we've had. But that stretch did happen, and you need to consider that. But if you look back, I watched maybe 3 or 4 All-Star games leading up to this weekend. One of them was LeBron James's other All-Star Game MVP performance, his first one. And that game was more competitive than the ones we've seen in recent years.
Okay.
So I think it might just be something that waxes and wanes over years. You see a lull, more effort being put in on more start to finish in a game, and then there goes 3 years where it's pretty rough, and people say something needs to change. These All-Star games have been terrible, and then it rises back up. And I think it may be more just how time goes and how it shifts. And now accommodating that with a forward-thinking commissioner who's willing to make changes to try to accommodate those problems, I think that helps. And moving forward, this might not be the perfect solution, but it's proven that we have the ability to make changes to attempt to fix it. And I think that's the biggest takeaway that you can take from this, is that we made an adjustment, whether it was 100% contributing to why the game was strong or not, it affected it. And moving forward, if something else needs to be changed, we can take it on when it comes to that point. So I'm excited for next year's All-Star game. We even heard that Boston Celtics may Boston may have the 2022 game, I
In the
believe,
running,
which
yep.
could be exciting.
I haven't watched an All-Star game in 30 years.
You wanna go?
No, I'm not going. It's just like like I said, I got
Sounds
home
expensive.
after and it's all in front of me what I had taped in basketball, but I went right to the URI St. Bonaventure game. And then once I was tired, and it was like, what am I going to watch now? The NBA All-Star? No, maybe I'll try that tomorrow.
The URI game was pretty cool.
That was a great game.
I was at a
They
Mexican
throw bottles
restaurant.
out of the stands.
Chrissy
So
and I
they-
were eating
they-
a Mexican, and I was like, can we put it on the URI game? Before
was
the
a
end of the game, I had
wild
everybody at the
game.
bar watching it like, wow, this is cool.
It was a wild game, and then, they had a technical foul call for shampoo bottles coming out of the stands onto the floor, and it said shampoo bottles going. Then one of the announcers says, "We all know that was not. Those bottles were not for shampoo. I mean, we've all been there, We know. And when you saw it, it was like seeing
Alcohol? Do they have
the Mullins Center or
been there.
the small on-campus site where you got all the students controlling the activity. It was magic. And then when that
Got
game
loud.
ended, it was really good. And I was down on the A10, but that game was major competitive. A really good game.
I think they'll still, going back to the All-Star, I think they'll still try to maybe make it a little bit more competitive next year.
They said they're going to televise the draft.
televise the
say that, huh?
draft. Kevin Durant even said maybe just do it right before the game starts. That'll be like a
fantastic.
playground feel.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
And then everybody will be a lot more into it.
Right.
You won't have Kevin Hart doing some weird roast when he introduces the
So
players.
something about
I
Kevin-
hated that.
The Weekend is a show.
I'm so
it's
sick
in
of
Los
him.
Angeles. It's in Hollywood. It's about buffering it and making it a show.
Laughing
And-
at his own jokes.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
So
the
is that
biggest part
show
of being a
for your
comedian.
generation? Is that what that's for? Or is it
So-
for the African American
Not for
community?
mine.
Is it for the hip hop community?
My interest.
Where does the
in
show
Kevin-
come from? And
my
how many
interest-
years have they been doing this show?
Well, it's been
And do
proven-
they have to do the show?
It's been proven that Kevin Hart bolsters ratings to the nth degree, and my interest in Kevin Hart has waned in recent months because of how repetitive his face and his
He's just
shtick
a little
has become.
loud, short guy. He just yells.
But if
Not
you,
I
funny.
thought the
if you've
introductions
never- but if
themselves
you-
were pretty good.
Yeah,
I just-
exactly. So if you've
that was
never
good.
seen Kevin Hart before and you watch him and you listen to what he says, he's funny. It's just how repetitive Kevin Hart is,
Especially
and
when he
how
laughs at his own jokes.
drilled his shtick was. I disagree.
Apparently we
You
just
gotta-
you
gotta
and
laugh
I
at-
just disagree on everything.
You gotta
today.
laugh at your own jokes. All right, let's. Last thing on the wheel is the USA World Game and Jaylen Brown. So that was a blowout game, but overall it was still very exciting. Embiid was the best player in the game, but he only played 10 minutes. So because he only played 10 minutes of the game, Jaylen Brown was the best player in that game.
I'm surprised he played at all.
That,
Embiid.
that was a beautiful showcase of his skills, and I think that obviously you have to take everything with a grain of salt from this, but you notice things from players that otherwise you wouldn't be able to necessarily see. Last year we saw one of the best shooting displays on a Friday night game from Jamal Murray, and it was amidst a slow rise from him at the end of last season that continued and has continued to project this year. And you were seeing, okay, this guy on his roll with the Denver Nuggets has this much string to be able to free and be able to do what he wants with the offense and do this here, and he has this role. But if he was given this, could he become a player that can score 25?
Yeah, I'm with you on
And
that.
you begin to ask more questions because of how players perform there.
Yep.
And Jalen's isolation game and,
Yes.
and his cutting game
Yes.
and his ceiling for me is so high. And his athletic ceiling, I think he has the best athlete in the league ceiling. Even though you see in terms of young players, your athletic ceiling is usually earlier, 23, 20, 22 years old. But I think he has a ceiling to be a top 10 fastest player in the league. All of the skills
That
and
format
abilities
is
he has.
perfect for him.
Oh my God,
Because
exactly.
he's got quickness, he's got the motor, he can throw it down.
He can jump. He could be the best dunker in the league.
What I liked,
He's got a
about,
great
what I
first
liked about
step.
him the best in this league is that, in that game, and is that he had the confidence and the presence to say, I am the man.
He's
and
the
he
alpha.
went out there, he said, man, I didn't get to play in this game last year, but I am the guy. There's nobody out here that's as good as me. And I saw some things he was doing with the ball
Dribble moves.
that was as good as anything,
That
better than
step back
anything I've
three.
seen. And you know, Jalen,
I think he's
we
learned a
need
lot
it.
from Kyrie.
We
too.
need it.
we
I was about to
need
say
it.
that. I was
Can
about
you
to say
please
that.
do
I
this?
was about to
Can
say
you
that.
rise that? Can you come out and succeed with this? Because that's the exact type of play we need to complement Kyrie.
That was my thought process exactly.
And I think you're on target with that.
And that specific play
we'll see.
where he had a triple move, dribble between the legs, behind the back,
Awesome.
spin move to a step back three that was
That
just
was
on
that
good,
was
good
that was
defense.
it. That's the move.
Good
right there.
defense. And he had several other plays in isolation and specifically on the break where he just looked thunderous and he's looked great. And I think that moving
In control
forward,
of his talent.
and that is something that you can take from these games. I spoke on it a little bit before when I talked about Lowry and DeRozan and how I don't think that they have this quality. When you're surrounded by other players that are the superior players in terms of their peers, and you put all of these superior players that are
Exactly.
supposed to be the best of the best, who rises and thinks themselves, even if they aren't
Yep.
that player, thinks themselves as the alpha among
Yep.
those alphas,
Yep.
that matters. And Jalen had that mentality, and that mattered a lot
And
to
there's
me.
every indication that he would have done that on the All-Star game level as well.
Right.
That he would have had that confidence and that presence. So let's bring it to the court and let's see it starting tomorrow night or whenever they're playing. Come on, let's bring it.
In Jalen's 30-minute interview, it was one of the most educated and well-versed interviews
I
that
don't
he's
go.
had.
No, let's not go there.
I want to go there, so I'm
Come
going
on.
to.
I mean, the guy's got 2 years of college education, and we're making like he's a triple PhD PhD from Columbia?
No, I'm
this
not.
guy's not that bright. I mean,
he's very bright.
He's quoting the planet Pluto as and he's not even accurate in his stats when he's quoting. He just talks. I like everything
I
about
think
him.
maybe
but
he's not necessarily.
I'm not looking at him as the intellectual of the
Okay,
league.
maybe he's
No,
not,
he's not the intellectual of the league.
Galileo.
But I don't know
what
who
I
he
like
is,
about
but-
this kid is that he's going to different schools and talking to the kids. He's trying
he's
to be a
great.
responsible role model.
That's all true.
Obviously got a good
He does, and
head
he's
on his
21 years
shoulders,
old.
and he's very well spoken. Maybe he doesn't
He's
always say the
He doesn't even
correct
have a
things.
college degree.
Okay, that's ridiculous to say.
What?
LeBron doesn't have a college degree. LeBron is one of the most educated entrepreneurs in the world.
But he doesn't make himself out to be an astrophysicist, or that's
No,
not how.
but
But
that's-
Jalen makes
that's not-
himself to be.
I don't think he makes himself out to be.
No, that's
He's talking about the planet Pluto and
not how he carries himself.
the time frame on Pluto compared to the time frame on Earth. And I might be a little bit off on this, but I think I'm accurate. But I'll do some more research on that.
He didn't say that. He
LeBron
said,
doesn't
it
talk
could
like
be a couple
that.
days. It was just a comparison in terms of difference in how time is perceived.
Yes.
And he's very smart. And he started learning Spanish in December, and he understands it basically fluently now. And he can speak Spanish pretty well now, and it's February, and it's only been 2 months since
I
he
like
started
his
learning
confidence
Spanish.
on a
And he has
basketball
so many
court, but I'm
qualities.
not going to pin the PhD on him.
He's up here. He's up here. That's where he is. All right, let's go to the.
I have a master's degree. I'm wrong quite a bit.
Let's
so.
let's go to the medals. Hopefully, I can get closer to Mike, who has 10.
You are getting closer. It was 10-4.
On the 22nd, we have, which is tomorrow, right? I think so. Wednesday. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Basketball back. All
We're
right.
definitely doing this for the playoffs.
Basketball's
too.
back. Oh, for sure. No brainer. Washington at Cleveland.
Cleveland.
I agree. I wish I
playing
didn't
well
agree.
with Wall.
John Wall still is out, but yeah, they are playing very well. New York at Orlando.
We never talked about John Wall's
What kind
issues
of
with
game is
Marcin
that?
Gortat.
I'll go with Orlando.
I also picked Orlando.
Orlando versus who?
New York at Orlando. The tank begins.
Orlando, I guess.
Who can tank better? Our first game back, Boston at Detroit. We struggle with bigs.
Celtics.
Give me Detroit.
Yeah,
Celtics.
Sloan, you're the worst.
I can't
we-
make
we
all,
do
I can't make
know
all the same
We
picks as you people.
do struggle with Milwaukee at Toronto.
Toronto.
They're 21-4. I'm with Toronto.
I picked Milwaugee.
And I don't
Toronto
agree.
at home
I'm
is
much higher on
ridiculous.
DeRozan and Lowry than you are, by the way.
They're the same
I
players.
know they haven't proven themselves,
They're
and
the
I get
exact
what
same
you
players.
said
You are
about how the alpha
habitual
thing. I did
shade
all
thrower.
that, but I wouldn't be downplaying the talent and ability of
They're
DeRozan.
talented. They're two top 35 players in the league. It's just
That's
like
not how you just talked about DeRozan in his
yes, it
All-Star
is
play.
because
No.
he's perceived as a top 15 player,
Okay,
and
keep
it's
going.
ridiculous.
Habitual Canadian shade thrower.
Minnesota at Houston.
Rockets.
Yeah, it's impossible to go against.
That
Houston.
team.
How about Jimmy Butler not playing in the All-Star game because he's tired? LA Nightlife undefeated.
Ridiculous.
San Antonio Spurs at the Denver Nuggets.
Denver.
Denver. Do you see Jokic had 2 triple-doubles and one was immense. It was, 17 assists?
San Antonio
So-
looks
so-
out of sorts, too.
so-
They're
so-
30,
exhausted.
16, and 17.
Nikola-
He had 2 triple-doubles.
Nikola Jokic could have had a 20-20-20 game, and I think he's going to be the first.
20-20-20.
I think he's going to be the first
Because that
player
was
to ever do
30,
that.
15, and 17.
Yes, and he got his triple-double
And early.
in 12 minutes.
Double-double in 12 minutes. Okay.
Triple-double in 12 minutes.
I like
Portland
it.
at
He's
Utah.
fun to watch.
He's my second favorite player in the league. Portland at Utah.
Who's your
Portland.
favorite?
Jalen. Portland at Utah.
That's a surprise. Who was that one?
Portland at Utah.
Portland.
Utah.
I picked Portland.
They can't win them all. Donovan's on a roll, but
Saturday showcase, OKC at Golden State. OKC has played well against Golden State. They lead the
I'm
series.
not believing in OKC. I'm going with Golden State. I'm not believing in OKC.
I think Golden State this last segment of the season is going to be crazy good.
Yeah, I agree with that. Lakers at Kings.
Oh, jeez.
Kings.
Lakers.
We're scraping the barrel now.
San Antonio at Cleveland. We got 2 more after that.
Cavs.
Me too.
Cleveland.
And Philly at Washington.
Bullets. I don't think the Sixers are where you guys think they are yet.
I'll take Philly over
They
the
need to win a
Wizards.
playoff series before
I picked Washington as well.
Wow,
Houston
okay.
at Denver.
I like that
Houston.
mile high. I'm going with Denver. Houston can't win all the games. And
I picked Denver as well.
All right, a couple of different picks.
All right, so until
Oh, I got a name for you. If you
Yeah, give
haven't
me it.
seen this guy, but the best pass I've seen this year was last night by Fats Russell. Look it up.
I like
it was
Fats
an
Russell.
amazing
We've talked
pass.
about Fats a few
Oh
times.
my God, you got to see this pass. It was
Great name, too.
He's got a lot
was
of
the pass?
Allen Iverson in
what
him.
was the pass?
It was he comes off a pick and roll hard to the hoop, draws the big off the center Levine, and as he's going, nobody could see this happening. Bang! Behind his back, as neat as you've ever seen anything go behind his back to Langevin coming down the middle. It
I'll
was
have, to,
incredible.
I'll have to look it up.
check it
Thank you
out.
for joining us on My Wheelhouse. Until next week, have a
That's
good one.
Fats with 2 T's.
Won't you try just